Hi, everyone. I'm Elaine Quijano. It's good to be with you. Thanks for joining us. There are 15 days until the election, and President Trump is trying to rally his supporters in several battleground states. The president stumped in Arizona Monday. That's a state he won in 2016. But our recent CBS News battleground tracker there shows Democrat Joe Biden with a slight edge over Mr. Trump. During rallies on Monday, the president launched new attacks on Dr. Anthony Fauci. President Trump called the nation's top infectious disease expert a, quote, disaster. The president also told campaign staffers earlier in the day that Americans are tired of hearing about the virus. But the nation's leading public health experts are warning that the next 3 months will be the worst of the pandemic. And across the country, new single-day infections have reached a high not seen since this summer. Hospitalizations are also up in 39 states. We'll have more on that in a few minutes, but we begin with CBS News White House correspondent Ben Tracy.
On a phone call with his campaign staff today, President Trump veered way off message, seeming to acknowledge that he's given up on combating the virus that has now killed more than 220,000 Americans.
People are tired of COVID. I have the biggest rallies I've ever had, and we have COVID. People are saying whatever, just leave us alone. They're tired of it.
The president also tore into Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, as well as his other public health officials.
People are tired of hearing Fauci and all these idiots, these people that have gotten it wrong. Fauci's a disaster.
On 60 Minutes Sunday, Fauci told Dr. John LaPook that the White House has blocked many of his media appearances. He also said President Trump thinks wearing a mask is a sign of weakness.
Were you surprised that President Trump got sick?
Absolutely not. I was worried that he was going to get sick when I saw him in a completely precarious situation of crowded, no separation between people, and almost nobody wearing a mask. When I saw that on TV, I said, oh, my goodness.
Asked today why he doesn't just fire Fauci, President Trump took another swipe at the 79-year-old who has served 6 presidents.
I don't want to hurt him. He's been there for about 350 years. I don't want to hurt him.
But at his rally in Arizona today, the president then made fun of a wild pitch Fauci threw months ago at a baseball game in Washington.
And he is a wonderful guy. I like him. He just happens to have a very bad arm.
The president's attacks on Dr. Fauci are not sitting well with some in his own party. Republican Senator Lamar Alexander said if more Americans paid attention to Fauci's advice, we'd have fewer cases of COVID and it would be safer to go back to school and work.
As we mentioned, President Trump is continuing to hit the campaign trail as the election nears. But his response to the coronavirus outbreak is causing many of his previous backers to question whether they can support him. Ed Keefe has the latest.
President Trump made his 6th campaign trip to Arizona today, hoping to turn the tide against Joe Biden, who could become the first Democratic nominee in 24 years to win the state.
You don't have events like this and you come in second in Arizona. 15 days from now, we're going to win the state of Arizona.
But the latest CBS News battleground tracker shows Biden holding a lead in Arizona. He has a 3-point edge, similar to last month. And 4 in 10 seniors say Mr. Trump has put them more at risk during the pandemic.
He knew that this virus was 5 times more deadly than the flu.
It's that message that Kamala Harris and the Biden campaign continue to push.
He knew it was airborne. But what'd he do? He kept that information to himself. I call it a cover-up.
She was in Florida today, where early in-person voting began, with many lined up before sunrise.
This is the reality of Trump's COVID response.
Voters are seeing the campaign's COVID attacks on TV, too. Biden is outspending the president on ads in most swing states, including by 3-1 in the key battleground of Wisconsin. In that state, it's also the pandemic that's swinging voters to Biden. Mr. Trump won it in 2016 by just 23,000 votes and made his 6th trip there just this past weekend. But likely voters say Biden would better handle the pandemic, as they told CBS's Adriana Diaz.
How would you rate the president's job with COVID?
0%.
0%.
And nearly half of likely Wisconsin voters say Mr. Trump has hurt their state's attempts to curb the outbreak, which has surged again in recent days.
I don't like all the lies and all the lying about COVID. He's not doing anything but lying and just saying it's getting better. It's not.
Ed O'Keefe and Ben Tracy join me now. Ed is a CBS News political correspondent, and Ben is a CBS News White House correspondent. Great to see you both. Ben, let me start with you. Why is the president choosing to attack Dr. Fauci and deny the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic now at this point?
Well, I don't think this is part of any grand strategy because it really makes no sense for a couple of different reasons. Polls have consistently shown that Dr. Fauci is highly respected by the American people, that people trust what he says about coronavirus more than what the president says. So for the president to go after him in this way today, to call him an idiot and basically just dismiss his expertise, which he has honed over decades of serving 6 different presidents, it does seem strange 2 weeks before the election. Also, keep in mind, one of the groups of the president is desperately trying to woo back our seniors who really have fled to Joe Biden in recent weeks, and going after Dr. Fauci, who not only is in their age group, a 79-year-old guy, but also this is a group of Americans who are very concerned about coronavirus because they're some of the most vulnerable. So this doesn't make any sense. What appears to have really happened here was that the president saw Dr. Fauci on 60 Minutes last night. He didn't like hearing him say that he wasn't surprised that the president got the virus, and the president lashed out today.
Well, Ed, the Biden campaign is responding to the president's attacks on Dr. Fauci. Why are they engaging on this?
For the same reasons, just the inverse, because he was on 60 Minutes last night, because he's wildly popular in this country. Polling shows he's more trusted on dealing with the pandemic than the CDC, than the president, than Congress, than some state officials, depending on which state you're asking in. They responded today in a written statement saying that coronavirus infections are spiking across the country, but President Trump decided to attack Dr. Fauci again today as a disaster and call public health experts idiots instead of laying out a plan to beat this virus or heeding their advice about how we can save lives and get our economy moving again. Waving a white flag and saying it is what it is unacceptable when thousands of American lives are being taken each week, when businesses are closing and schools remain shuttered, Biden said. He has said a few times over the course of the campaign in the last several months that one of the things he would do is, in essence, elevate Fauci, bring him back into the fold of presidential decision-making and help him, make clear to the president, in this case it would be Biden, if Biden has his way, what it is that public health experts and the administration need to do in order to figure this out. So, essentially, if you're looking for differences between the president and Biden, as if you needed another one, at least today, is pro-Fauci and the other is not.
Right. The contrast there could not be more clear. So, Ben, the president was in Nevada on Sunday and Arizona on Monday. He'll also travel to Pennsylvania and North Carolina later this week. Those are all states he needs to win if he wants to stay in office. So what is the president's campaign strategy between now and Election Day?
Well, you could call this the Willie Nelson strategy, on the road again. That's what the president's going to be doing basically between now and Election Day. He has told his campaign he wants to be doing rallies, multiple rallies every day. And the president said in a campaign call today that he really views these rallies as tipping points for him in these close swing states, that he thinks the rallies are what actually wins those states for him. And he thinks that's what happened the last time when he won in 2016, that he went into some of these states in the Rust Belt that he wasn't expected to win, and that by simply having rally after rally after rally, he energized enough people to go vote for him. That's his theory of the case. So expect to see the president doing, he said next week, 3 rallies a day, and then in the final days up to 5 rallies per day. So he's gonna wear out that voice by the time we get to November 3rd.
I imagine so. Well, Ed, CBS News obtained an internal Biden campaign memo this weekend, which shows the campaign focusing on state polling and tight races in key battleground states. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, look, they see the same surveys that we do, let's put it this way, they actually survey voters and track the election the way we do at CBS, which is to say we don't publish national horse race numbers that are worth nothing at this late stage in a campaign. We focus instead on the most competitive states across the country and try to get a sense of who's winning them. Right now, we give Biden an electoral college edge of about 270 and change, but there's about a dozen states across the country that are still essentially jump balls. That's what they're seeing as well. And in the states where Biden has an advantage, he's only got it by about single digits. That's what our polling shows, too. So that's the way to be looking at this. Not because the Biden campaign is doing it. We want to suggest that we're taking our cues from the Biden campaign. We're not. But statistically, right now, the way you want to be looking at this election is not who's winning that horse race number at the top, but who's winning in those individual states. Because remember, we essentially hold 51 individual contests in this country, add up the electoral college votes and see who won. And that's what they're doing. Part of the reason they want to do this, however, is because they want to maintain enthusiasm for Biden as the campaign nears its end. They don't want Democrats getting complacent. They don't, in essence, want to have to sound the alarm. Thank you for cutting the alarm there, sir, as you drove by. They don't want to have to sound the alarm in the last few days. They want to be able to keep that momentum going, get people in line now. You know, early voting began today in Florida. That's why Kamala Harris went down there. It starts up again in a few other states later this week because they understand, and we all remember, that 4 years ago, a lot of Democrats, a lot of supporters of Hillary Clinton saw those polls in the closing days and thought, she's got this. I don't need to go. Well, that mindset, Democrats have spent 4 years reversing, trying to get as many of their supporters to the polls as quickly as they can.
Well, and I also want to ask you about a letter that Trump campaign chairman Bill Stepien sent to the Commission on Presidential Debates ahead of Thursday's debate in Nashville. What issues does the Trump campaign have with the debate, and what is it hoping to achieve?
Yes, I think we should refer to this until Thursday night at 9:03 p.m. Eastern as Thursday's scheduled debate, because this letter is the kind of thing that gets us thinking maybe something is once again up again. Look, Stepien today issuing a letter that essentially raises a lot of concerns. Not surprising, because the president clearly not a fan of this Commission on Presidential Debates anymore. Saying, look, our understanding was, and traditionally, the final debate is focused almost exclusively on foreign policy. But on Friday, the Debate Commission released a list of topics that the moderator plans to cover, including race in America, leadership, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, today they said, hold on a second. We're under the impression it was only going to be about foreign policy. We want to talk about our recent peace deals between the Israelis, the Emiratis, and the Bahrainis. We want to talk about the fact that Joe Biden has what Robert Gates calls a disastrous foreign policy over nearly 5 decades in Washington. Biden campaign turns around and says, no, months ago we agreed with the commission and you, Trump campaign, that there was only that we were going to allow the moderator to choose the subjects, that we weren't going to get involved. And they issued a statement suggesting that the president is, quote, afraid of dealing with questions about his response to the pandemic. So, again, let's see where this goes tomorrow. Let's see if the commission responds. But to me, this is the kind of thing, Elaine, and Ben, I think you'd have to agree, where they may be trying to either set expectations or lay the groundwork for a sudden decision not to show up.
Very true.
Yes, to be continued. Yeah, to be continued. So finally, stimulus talks are continuing throughout Washington this week. The Senate is expected to vote on a so-called skinny stimulus bill midweek. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is also continuing negotiations with Treasury Secretary Mnuchin on the House's proposed package. Meantime, the president is bemoaning Senate Republicans who are criticizing his proposed $1.8 trillion plan. So, Ben, is there any sense that there will actually be an agreement at this point?
There is a chance. It's a slim chance, but it's mainly a chance that the White House and Speaker Pelosi will come to some sort of deal, because they are still negotiating. Today, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin and the Speaker talked on the phone for about 53 minutes. They say that they did make some progress. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows just told us here in the driveway a couple of moments ago. He said nobody's popping any champagne yet. There's still a lot of work to do. But time is really running out, because the Speaker has imposed this deadline of end of day tomorrow to get something agreed upon, to get this done before the election. But let's say they do that. Let's say tomorrow a miracle happens here in Washington. Everyone agrees on something. The real question is what happens to that in the Senate, because Mitch McConnell has really not been involved in these negotiations at all. And he has signaled very clearly that he doesn't think he has enough members, GOP members in the Senate, who would go along with a bill that's expected to top $2 trillion. So even if there is a popping of the champagne tomorrow because the White House and the Speaker agreed on something, it still faces a big uphill battle in the Senate.
All right, Ben Tracy and Keefe, the unflappable reporters. Nothing can stop you, not a fire truck, not leaf blowers, not even a candidate. I know, Ed, you had that very viral moment that one time. Really appreciate you taking us through all of that. Thank you both.